rehab project hearing to order. Entertain public comments about this point. Is there any? Any comments from the council?
I have 2 days. Just a minute. Anyway, we passed a resolution, and I don't see what's that right now. But it said that, according to Kansas State Statute 4747, this should be looked at by the planning commission. Has that been done? We wanna cross all the T's and dot the I's so this thing goes through. Randy, have you looked at that?
The planning commission,
Yeah,
to
under
the,
urban.
to the extent that, Dwayne McCarty and Tim Makovec have looked at the pictures and so forth.
That's not what the state statute says. It needs to be presented to the planning commission for their approval and then sent back to the council. I had that, just a minute, let me see if I can find it. It's Kansas State Statute 174747. And it's paragraph B. I can look it up on my phone right here.
Rosemary, do you,
Is,
Hey, Rosemary.
good afternoon, Rosemary Summers from Ransom Financial, I'm the grant writer for this project.
You're welcome.
Is, as far as submitting the application, I'm not, and I'm gonna defer to the city's legal counsel on this part. As far as submitting the application, I don't think we need approval at that point, but any permits that would be needed, yes, you would have to go through the process to getting approval for any permits for the project.
Okay, this was just a Kansas State statute that said because of the urban, it needed to be approved by the planning commission, and I'm sorry I don't have that with me. I thought I did, but I don't. So
Counselor
I just-
Herbal, you referenced KSA 1747 dot, 1747.47.
Well,
Okay.
dash
It's
47, yeah.
17 dash, yeah, 4747.
And it's paragraph B, right?
Okay, all right,
I can't get mine to come up for some reason.
I've got it noted.
I just wanted to make sure we had all the T's
Understood.
crossed and the I's dotted so this thing goes through. And we referred to that in our resolution, that particular. But I'm sorry, I don't have that.
Is
with
what
me.
we're doing an urban renewal plan?
No, it is commercial rehabilitation.
Okay, because this talks about a municipality shall not prepare an urban renewal plan for an urban renewal area unless you have by resolution determined it to be a slum area or blighted area, combination thereof.
But in that resolution we passed, which I don't have with me,
Now, we are applying under the category of slum and blight for the downtown area. That is one way we can apply for funding from CDBG for this particular category, is to declare the building slum and blighted. And
Which we did.
which
Which,
the city
which
has
council
done.
did.
Which you did already, okay.
Yeah, back in January.
we applied,
Yeah, maybe even December,
and I
but
think
yes.
that's where it mentions the herbal renewal, is in that particular
It's
resolution.
the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Randy, could we get together maybe tomorrow, and you take a look at what I'm talking about?
Sure.
Cause we want all the T's crossed and all the I's dotted on this, so we can get it through.
We're in agreement in terms of getting the application to go through, yes, so.
Is this the first time this application has been submitted?
Yes, it will be.
Okay.
I mean, we're still pulling the final pieces together. The reason we're reholding the public hearing is the dollar value changed, and we needed to go into more detail on the work that was gonna be completed on the exterior of the building.
Okay, speaking of that, I noticed that they added a handicap parking. Where is this going to be?
It's actually gonna be in that empty lot that's
Okay.
in between the two buildings, so that they can have access into, correct me if I'm wrong, Randy, the sweet shop without being on street parking.
Okay, is this gonna come in from the back side?
Yes. I would imagine it is. I'm not the designer the architect on that, so I can't speak to that specifically, but
Well, I know the city doesn't have any handicap parking on the front side.
there is a ramp on the corner which meets the ADA, requirements.
If you can get out of your vehicle.
It is with future planning, and correct me if I'm wrong, Randy, they want to be able to do al fresco dining out there as part of the area, and in order to have easy access to that in the sweet shop, they would put an ADA parking stall adjacent to that area.
Okay, it appeared that they were gonna have a fire stairs, is that outside or inside?
Will have to be outside.
Yeah, it's on the outside in order to be able to make ingress and egress according to the fire marshal.
Okay, and that'll be to the empty lot too.
I believe that's
Is that correct?
correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Yeah.
This is not cost to the city, is it?
No, just to reiterate, the only two entities in the state of Kansas that can apply for funding are cities and counties. And so basically the city is being a pass-through to the sub-applicant, and all dollars for the local share will be paid by the property owner.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. At this time, would you please stand for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll call the regular city council meeting to order, and we need to amend the agenda at 5A, which is resolution 21-11, and Rosemary will explain that when we get to that, okay? So I would entertain a motion to approve the amended agenda,
So moved.
and a second.
Second.
Then move and second, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Public forum limited to agenda items only. Does anybody wish to address any of the agenda items? I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Been moved, second.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify, well, is there any discussion regarding this before we move on? Being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Rosemary, resolution 21-11.
Okay, basically, this is a resolution that you have already approved once before. What it does is it changes the dollar value for the local share to match what we have in the public hearing notice. And that is for $180,616 is what the owner of the property will be infusing into the project.
Is there any questions for Rosemary? There being none, I would entertain a motion to approve resolution 21-11. And second,
Second.
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried 5-0. Item number 6, 2020 municipal audit presentation. We've got Jan here on the TV, so.
Okay, Jan, if you can hear us, you're up.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes,
Okay. Well, I will start with the communication letter. And hopefully you've all had a chance to kind of read through the financial statements and communication letter. So if you do have any questions, I am sure available to answer any of those. I really appreciate you letting me zoom into your meeting here today and being flexible with me. So I really appreciate that. On the communication letter, the first couple of pages are just some standard information that we are required to communicate to you. And so we've done that in writing. If there had been any difficulties encountered during the audit, we would note it in the communication letter. And so we're just letting you know that there were no difficulties encountered. And then on page 2 of the communication letter, if there had been any corrected or uncorrected misstatements, we would let you know that on that top of page 2. And so we're letting you know that there were none of those issues either. Disagreements with management, we didn't have any disagreements. And so those are just some standard items that we are required to communicate to you. And then on page 3, in the middle of the page, other control deficiencies, prior year points revisited. Every year, we always like to go back and revisit if there were any prior year points to kind of give you a status on those. And as you can see there were no points in 2019. Current year points, there were no points in 2020. So we consider this a clean audit and for another year. And so that's we don't get to say that very often, but we're very pleased that we can say that tonight. So another year of a clean audit. And then the graphs are just something that we like to include starting on page 5, just a different presentation. The first one is all funds. It just gives you the 5-year perspective on where your ending unencumbered cash is in all of your funds. The financial statements do give the prior year and current year, but sometimes a 5-year perspective is kind of helpful. And so that's what the graphs are showing you, is the 5-year perspective. And so the ending unencumbered cash balances is the first one for all funds. And then we've split out just a few of what we consider some of the important funds. The general fund, special city highway fund, bond and interest fund, and then your utility funds, just to show you the ending unencumbered cash balance then at December 31, what those balances were. And then on the next graph, we've taken the utility fund and the electric, and we're showing you the 5-year receipts, and then the operating expenditures and non-operating expenditures, and just showing you what the 5-year comparison is for that information as well. And then we've done that for each of your utilities, the refuse, the sewer, and the water. And I don't know if there's any questions on the communication letter before I spend just a couple of minutes on the financial statements.
any questions from the council? All right, yes, we're good to go.
And it's muted, so we're good to go, okay. On the financial statements, page 1 and 2 is our independent auditor's report. And so again, we're just required to include that and just give you a little bit of information on how the financial statements were audited. We use the Kansas Municipal Audit and Accounting Guide as our guidance, as we're required to in the state of Kansas, because you do get the GAAP waiver. So that is how these financial statements are prepared, and so that is what the independent auditor's report is stating. And then on page 3 is statement 1, and that is the summary statement of receipts, expenditures, and unencumbered cash. This is real important. The third column, from the right is the ending unencumbered cash balance. And if any of those, numbers had been a negative, that would indicate a cash basis violation. And so you can see at the end of the year, there were no cash basis violations. And that just shows you then a summary of your, all of your funds at the end of December. And then the notes to the financial statement start on page 4. And again, the Kansas Municipal Audit and Accounting Guide does give us guidance in what they would like to see in notes to the financial statements. So those are included here. And something of interest usually is on page 8 is your long-term debt. And this is your changes in long-term debt for 2020. And then the next page is your current maturities in your long-term debt. And that goes until the debts are paid, which is 2040. So that's kind of interesting information. And I know something you'll be working on, looking at again at budget time, but just it's a good place to kind of go to if you are wondering where you're at with the debt of the city. And then just some other general information then in the notes of the financial statement. And then on page 13 is a summary of expenditure actual compared to budget. And if any of the far right-hand column numbers have been a positive, that would indicate that there was a budget violation. And so you can see at the end of the year, there were no budget violations in any of your budgeted funds. So another good thing to see. In the general fund then, that starts on page 14, and that just gives detail on what was on statement 1. So I won't go into explanation or detail on every fund. I know you get some information as the year goes along. You get some different reports that you look at. And so I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have as you looked over this over the weekend, or I'm just available to answer any of those. And we do like to see that once the financial statements are approved by the council, then the financial statements can go to the state of Kansas, and we can kind of finalize everything that needs to be finalized. So hopefully that can happen tonight if the council is comfortable going ahead and approving the financial statements.
Any further questions
Any
from the council?
or any questions?
There being none? Okay.
Okay.
And I would move to accept the 2020 municipal audit and
Well, I
financial
will just
statement.
sign off then, and let you continue your meeting.
I'm sorry.
Okay, right, thank you very much.
I would move to accept the 2020 municipal audit and financial statements audited by Swindon, Jansen, Hoffman, Lloyd. Furthermore, instruct our city clerk to cause our audit and financial statements to be filed with the state of Kansas, with the Kansas State Department of Administration as called for by state statute. Is there a second?
I second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item number,
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, could I pick up the paperwork that you signed earlier?
oh, you need this signed?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
You don't wanna stay, Rosemary?
It isn't that, I have another council meeting at 6 o'clock.
You're
At
cutting
Cottonwood
short.
Falls.
Thanks, Tiffany will need to attest to it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You bet.
Table here.
Otherwise, I would stay.
Maybe next time.
Yes. Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, 316, 264, 34. Sorry, SMN, okay.
Drive careful.
Yes.
Item number 7, bond refinancing presentation, Kip Hart.
Yes,
Good evening, my name's Kip Clark, I am with McCliney and Company. Just quickly about us, I am here because I would like to be the city's municipal advisor. We are out of Mission, Kansas, and we are a family bond company. My grandfather opened McCliney and Company in 1956. You'll see we are now a division of Samco Capital. That was about a year ago. We merged with a company in Texas called Samco Capital that a different McCliney is an owner of. So it was really just keeping it a family company, extending our reach. But we are in the area and we work with several cities in the area. And I saw that the city has a 2013 general obligation bond. And so if you look inside the packet, this first page is your old bond. Is your 2013 bond is what you're paying from here on out, after October of 2021. You actually just saw that probably the same numbers in your audit that you just went over, but you'll see over the life of it through 2028, you're paying $494,000, $435. If you look at the next page, if we issued a bond today, this is where I think you would fall, those interest rates. So you can see over the life of it, without extending the life, without shortening it, you would pay a total of $474,000. So on the third page, it just puts those side by side to show you the savings. You pick up $1,000 to $5,000 every year about, for a total of $20,000 savings over the next 8 years. This is something called, I have to show you what that means as a present value. What that just means is money in the future isn't worth as much as money today. If I offered you $20,000 today, I'm sure I'd get a lot of signers. Just saying that over 8 years, it's a little less enticing. So it's just saying over the 8 years, the $20,000 is actually worth $19,443.49. So the last page is how it would break down. It shows you a percent value. Those are those highlighted numbers. What I look for is at least a 3% savings for it to be worth it. That's after all projected expenses. So I look for at least a 3% savings here, and you can see we're above that. We're at that 4% range. We could lock in these rates as early as July 1st of this year. In order to do that, I would want to get started on it soon in order to get the ball rolling and to lock in these rates. Rates do change. Again, my goal would be at least at that 3% level on an issue like this. My goal would be to privately place this, which means going to a local bank. A coworker of mine, also a McCliney, works with Marion National Bank. And so, but I would absolutely look there and the other banks in the area first. I like to keep money local when we can. And then after that, I would start to branch out a little bit. But I think we could get it done probably as a private placement with a local bank, which would increase the savings because that just makes it cheaper. So I'm being conservative with my numbers here. If we did it today and did it as a private placement, these numbers I believe would be lower for greater savings to the city. I'll pause right there before moving on just to see if there are any questions.
In the council has a question.
I do. I noticed that, the first 4 bonds went up $5,000 each. Does that cover your cost?
All costs. So yes, I have a cost, and then legal will have a cost. So the par amount, the principal amount of the bond will be higher, but because interest is so much lower, it leads to savings. So that you can see on the very last page.
Okay, and then the next question I have is that on the 4/1/22 to the 10/1/22, that went up $10,000.
4/1/22 to 10/1/22.
Yeah, this is on the projected 2021 refundings, first line.
Projected 2021 refunding, the bond redemption is up. Yes, again, there's a higher principal of that year, but you can see because interest is so much lower, on the third page, you, in 2022, save about $730 at these rates.
But it's costing us 10,000 to do that.
It is after the 10,000 that you would save the
Okay,
$730.
and then the third question I have is on, the projected
Yes,
2021 refinancing. Line item, let's see, 1, 2, 3.
mhm,
That's projected at 6,000 or 65,000. Let's see, where am I at? That went up 10,000, but if you look out to the far right column,
yes.
it went up instead of going down with the interest rate being adjusted.
So you can see this, that second page is what the whole bond would look like. So the annual debt service is what your annual payments would look like, compared to the annual payments from the year, from the page before, which is what your annual payments currently are.
Yeah, what I'm saying is all of them went down except for that particular item,
For 2023,
and it went up.
68,155 to 63,755 for the year. If you look at annual debt service compared to the year before,
Okay, this is line 3 on the refunding,
okay, for 10/1/23,
10/1/24.
10/1/24, that's 68,447, and in 10/1/24, now, that year, you'd be paying $71,560. So it is a savings there, again, on the third page, you can see that year projected savings would be $3,111, it's that middle column of the third page. Again, so then the very last page shows you, by issuing $455,000 of new bonds, we can pay off the $430,000 payoff amount, plus cover all costs of issuance, which again, if I can do this as a private placement, those costs of issuance will go down, to cover everything. So then those savings amount, the $20,000, is after all expenses. That 4% savings is after all expenses. It is because the interest rates are significantly lower, that by issuing more bonds by about 25,000, we can lower your annual payment.
You mentioned that you would try to do this private placement with Marion National first and then reach out to the other banks.
I would reach out to all 3 local banks and see who gave you the lowest interest rates.